Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's the Kubeflow community call for October 24th here in the United States, 2023. I want to remind everyone that this meeting is governed by the Kubeflow Code of Conduct. It is being recorded, and it potentially could also be being transcribed. So please keep that in mind as you're making comments. I'm Josh Bottom. I'm leading this call for today, and we have an agenda. As always, we'll start with the release update on Kubeflow 1.8. And Daniela from the release team, would you like to give us an update about how we're doing?
Sure. Thanks, Josh. So, hi everyone. If you didn't notice, we released RC2 last week. So that is available, ready for you to test it and use it. We received some great feedback, and it's really appreciated in the tracking issue. So yeah, thanks to the community for that. And part of that feedback, unfortunately, were two issues with notebooks, which are there linked in the notes. Fortunately, though, those issues are now fixed, and we are preparing Kubeflow RC3 as we speak, which means, of course, that we'll later have to manifest sync again and release a new RC3 for the release. So keep an eye on the communication on the many communication channels, because that's coming pretty soon. There is another potential blocker on the list that I would like to address right now, because that'll change or could change the actual dates of our releases of our release and release candidates. So right now we're targeting RC3 for tomorrow. So as soon as everything gets merged, I'll be posting an RC3 for tomorrow, so that people have some time to test it. Sorry, to test it and provide feedback. And then the new date for the actual release would be next week. Again, this is just for allowing people to some time to test. These dates are there and should remain the same if and only if this PR for adding notebook server images for with ARM support is not considered. We actually have Kimonos in the call and Matthew as well.
There's
So
also
I'd
actually
like,
one other PR that needs to, by the way, before the RC3, there's one other PR that needs to be cherry picked if someone's cherry picking. That fixed another bug that someone found that I merged.
where in Kubeflow?
Yeah, I'll ping it in the chat. Or I'll put it on this. I'll put it on the list.
Okay, I was not aware of that, but yes, please let me know.
I
So
tried to ping you in it, but I think maybe you didn't get it. Let me just.
yeah, so usually what I do is check the tracking issue as well. Anyway, I may have.
Because it's important for otherwise all but the most default distributions will fail. In the
Okay.
PVC view. In the PVC view.
So did you send it?
I can put it in the chat. Let me just.
Yeah, please.
Where is the? Oh, there's the chat. That one.
Right. So okay, it's fine. This is all. That's actually this is this was cherry picked, I think. Anyway, I'll make sure this makes it to the RC3 for Kubeflow. But anyway, I guess the main discussion right now is this PR for the notebook server images. If we want that in before the end of the week, by next week, when is that going to happen? If not, what are the options that we have and that we should consider? Because this is really pushing the target date more and more. And I would really like to just set this and provide alternatives if we have them, or just merge it, provide feedback and merge it.
In my perspective, it's ready to be merged. I think Kimonos was just a bit slammed with something else. Kimonos, what is there a particular problem that's preventing you merging it, or?
Only time to just sit down and run the test the build and verify that it works. And yes, my feedback to that is if someone can also take a look at review, I'm happy to then take a lighter review and merge if at least
I
a
mean,
couple
someone
of-
else did already review it if you looked at the PR.
No, we have a review. I missed it.
Yeah, they only raised one kind of change, and I suggested that since it was more of a cosmetic change, they should raise a separate PR. Also because I don't particularly like yeah, it's complicated. I don't know if they've actually signed a CLA, so I need them to raise the PR separately. But the point is, I've tested it on a lot of places now, including I made one slight cosmetic change myself, which prevents in VS Code some weird pop-ups that were happening. But other than that. So
I'll
all the
try
images
to-
are published, by the way, so you can use them directly from there if you don't want to try and build them yourself, because they take a long time to build.
Oh, let's coordinate on that. Yeah, I don't have at this point I don't I mean aside from the concern that this is a last minute change, but if this has been tested, I don't have the fully time to go too deep to check all of the changes. That's why I wouldn't at this point I wouldn't go and propose a ton of changes. It's just a matter of at least testing what is there so that. But yeah, at least from my side, I won't be able to do it until the weekend.
So I think personally, if you're okay with it, Kimono, since we're gonna have an RC3, everyone will have the opportunity to test it if we merge it. You know what I mean? Because also we don't know if the one thing we need to do is if we merge it now, we can confirm whether there's some Docker Hub issue by merging such a large build. But I don't think there will be.
Okay, we can do it this way. I'll just add a disclaimer that I didn't have the time to at least deploy, so that we kick the start. But I would need also your help if we find other PRs along this week to help fix those issues.
I mean, I'll raise them. I mean, the amount of work that I spent doing that one, I'm happy to follow up on anything that needs to be fixed.
Sure. Okay. I'll take a quick look unless something huge I could spot, and we can merge.
And so yeah, if you want to quickly run the built images, just so I in the comments I put I pushed them to a private not private but my own registry so that you can try if you want to just confirm that they work in your environment, sanity check. You know what I mean? There's obviously a lot of images, but the ones that are most likely to fail are probably like the CUDA images and stuff. So I've tried them. So
Perfect. I'll do my best to at least do that then. Thanks.
and because yeah, this will be great for the community, I think personally.
Oh, it has things we need, like update to the KFP. The minimum that updates packages like KFP v2, which we're 1.6. So, yeah.
Cool.
Okay, then. So I should wait. But then can we
So-
make this? Can we make this before tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean,
can
Kimonos should
have
be able to
that
merge it in
RC3
the next few hours, right? It shouldn't take you more than an hour, right?
With those SLAs, I think I can. Yeah.
Okay, then if that's the case, the target for RC3 is tomorrow. And that'll give us around a week for preparation for the actual release. Is everyone comfortable with this?
So when are we actually cutting the final release? Sorry, did you say tomorrow? No, right?
So RC3 is for tomorrow, right? RC3 Kubeflow 1.8 RC3, and then after a week I'll be cutting the actual release if nothing comes up.
So and I'd like to hear Anna's opinion because she's done release as well. I'm a little concerned about this. I think that on one side, all the updated notebook images are a tremendous gift to the community, and we need it, and we should do it. On the other side, it's a last minute XXL size change, which I'm confident we're going to find some issues with.
I'm actually fairly certain that we won't. But also the only reason it's last minute is just because of delays on Kimonos' end. Like it's not, and I think this is actually, even if it wasn't, I'm not blaming Kimonos. Like that's our fault as a community for not having a third person who can actually approve such a big change. But the thing is, even in the small case that we did find an issue, it would be worth it because Kubeflow notebooks is a very big part of Kubeflow, and we are running incredibly outdated versions of popular packages right now.
I think these are all good points. My comment that I was trying to get to was that if we miss next week, we move into the week of KubeCon. And it could be that people are traveling, I don't know, could make things hard for us to get finished that week, which could push us out another week. I'm okay with that. I just want us to understand that this is a possible scenario that could happen. And I want us to be able to communicate to the community, you know, that we're taking some risk to put this out, but we think it's worth it. And since most people are going to rebuild the images anyway, we feel like they're just examples. And so they're not, if there are some issues, it's not the end of the world. You have the old images. You can
still use them. You can still use the old images.
So there's just some communication that needs to be clear, right? Now we can just go forward and hope everything works out the way it should. And if that's what the community says they want to do, that's fine. I would like to, if Anna's on the phone, I'd like to get her opinion because she's been through this.
Hi, Josh. I don't, typically when the RC is released, distributions and users, they typically like to have some time to test them. So as long as we can provide that, I think it's okay. But like you said, KubeCon is coming up. So I think it's just up to the release, Daniela and the working group leads to kind of figure out whether it's okay to, you know, have the release within the KubeCon date, I guess. So I think it's up to the community to decide. I personally think as long as it's given enough time for people to test, I think it's okay.
Yeah, and I guess we are actually providing the time, right? If we release the RC3 tomorrow, we're giving around a week for testing. The problem with that is issues can be found with these images, right? And if someone finds an issue, then what's going to be the process there? We're going to have to fix it, wait again, and delay again. So I think that's what also Josh is trying to prevent or to avoid in this case, which is totally normal. I mean, this is I completely understand that, and provided that this is such a big change in the last minute of the release, it's kind of like we're in a really awkward situation. Where we can say, okay, this is a new date, but then issues can arise.
Here's probably just would like to know if what is a blocking issue from if RC3 tests 99% and there's one who, I guess Daniela has the ultimate control of what a blocking issue is, right? But at some point we have to decide as a community, is there something that we would hold the release on? Right now, I hope there wouldn't be anything, right? Even if there was a bug or something in the notebook images, would we just go ahead and put that in a 1.8.1?
So let's take a look at the actual PR, right? So what this PR is doing is updating the images, the packages, the versions, etc. And it's not so if there's an issue with the image, users can have the option of not using the default images and probably roll back to an older one. If that's the case, if that's like the workaround we can provide, while probably we will need another patch release for maybe patching these new images. If that's the workaround and that's acceptable, then it doesn't sound like a blocker to me, because we have some sort of workaround. If that's acceptable by everyone, especially Kimonos and Matthew, then I wouldn't consider potential issues with these new images as blockers for the release. What do you folks think?
Is it possible to have 2 release candidates? One for all the bugs that we're discussing, and one that does not contain this notebook image changes, so that it's easy to roll back if needed.
Well, the notebook images are just a config in one of the other apps. So if a person wants to try the older images, they can just use the older tags when they're launching notebooks, you see?
That's the thing. Like the workaround is to just, instead of clicking on the default, you just point to an older tag.
Yeah, I mean, here's let me be frank. Somebody spins it up, they go through all the trouble of getting the notebook up, they're all excited, they spin up their first notebook, it crashes, right? Because there's some type of bug we didn't find in that one of the notebook images that we have, and now they're disappointed, right? Okay, fine. I think that's probably low probability on everything but GPU, right? I don't know, Matthew. I mean, how many images are there? Has everybody turned up a notebook with each of those images? I don't know. I mean, that's kind of my question here is, you know, we don't want to give people a bad taste when they're first trying it, but what's the likelihood, right?
They definitely don't crash. I've tested them all on every architecture with GPUs and non-GPUs, but like I've tested on both ARM and Linux and x86 servers, and without and with GPUs. But the issue is that, so the only issue that I foresee, and it's not really an issue so much as it's just there at some point I think we should release a slightly patched version of them, because I'm waiting on another upstream package to update something, which is Jupyter Lab, which is obviously the most common thing people launch in Kubeflow, moved to 4.0. That broke support for Git, and that package upstream is struggling to support 4.0. But they look like they're going to release it in the next few days, like maybe. But honestly, I wouldn't bet on it. But the point is, at some point, we should release a patched version of the images with the Jupyter Lab Git plugin, because we used to have that, but we couldn't have that anymore because it doesn't work in 4.0. So yeah, but again, my perspective on that is that 4.0 brings so many other benefits that if a user really, and within the lifetime of Kubeflow 1.8, the Git plugin will support Jupyter 4. So users can pip install it themselves, you know what I mean, very easily. So anyway, that's my only thing that people might have a problem with, in my thoughts.
Let's just get a taste from the community. Is anybody opposed to including the new images? Okay, I think we have our answer.
But maybe let's do as Anna suggested before. We can easily roll back. We can have 2 RCs, easily roll back to the one that doesn't have these images if we found any issues.
Of course, I'm confident we won't. But yeah, again, the only issue would be more of like a end user issue with the Git plugin. That's the only thing I could see.
Yeah. No, I mean that's perfectly fine, right? Like I'm just trying to avoid, again, delaying again and again the actual release. So if, let's say that by Friday someone finds an issue and then we just don't have the hands to work on it, then the decision is let's roll back to the previous RC, which doesn't have these images, and that's it. Does that make sense to anyone?
I think let's just merge it
Okay.
and see what happens. I don't think there'll be any issues, but yeah.
That sounds good. I think having a plan so that it's
Mhm.
not delayed forever, is
Exactly.
really, yeah, I think it's a good way to move forward.
Okay, then then let's do that. I'll just sync the RC3 of Kubeflow without the images right now. I'll do that, and then we'll have immediately after an RC4 with this PR. If people found issues, then we roll back to RC3. If not, we continue with RC4, and the release stays there. Okay. Any other feedback regarding this? Josh, are we okay with this?
I'm very excited about the new notebook images. I'm expecting this is going to work fine, and I look forward to seeing
Yeah.
1.8 out. So thank you, Matthew. I know this is a tremendous amount of work, and you know, I know you'll be responsive if we find an issue. So I think we're all good with the plan. We have a backup plan. I appreciate everybody's input.
Okay. It sounds good then. I'll keep you posted on all communication channels. So yep. Thanks for that. I just write it down here. I think that's pretty much it. Well, we have an update regarding docs and the presentation. David has been working on that. We have already a pull request for the blog post. So if you want to provide feedback, allow me to share it. So the blog post is going to be here in this link. Working group leads, if you want to provide feedback, please do. The release team will also be providing feedback there. I think with most of it is covered. I think it was just missing Kaiser and Tecton topics, but anyway, should be finalized pretty soon. And for the presentation, we'll reach out for contributions from each working group this week. Yep, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so the blog post, working group leads, please make an effort to review the PR and put your look good to me on it. We want it technically correct. The sooner we can get that done, the better we can. And you know, the blog is about 1,500 words. You know, typically we try to be 1,000. So, you know, we'll do the title last, so you'll see 2 or 3 title variations, but I think we've got a good enough close to title. But the piece that I would say is we just want to make sure it's technically correct. We need the look good to me, but from the working group leads. And please go in and try to get that done this week as well. Okay. And then the presentation, is that the last piece, or you also have a PR for the GitHub manifest page? That's all ready to go, right? Is that what you
Yeah.
said? Okay.
Yep, correct.
And the presentation, we're going to reach out this week for contributions on the presentation. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And we don't have a schedule for that. And if we don't do it next week, it'll be hard to do it the week of KubeCon, perhaps. So
Yep.
We just need to keep that in mind. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
That blog post doesn't seem to talk about notebooks at all.
Well, there's a discussion about ARM. There was some stuff in there about the new notebook images that we took out because we thought that it wasn't gonna make it. And there's the PCV, BVCV.
PVCV.
But there isn't anything in particular about notebooks. You're correct. There isn't a section on notebooks right now.
Yeah, we could just, once we merge that, we can update it slightly with that maybe.
Yeah, we can either add that back in or we can add some other, if there were some other significance, but that seems very significant what we did with the.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of explaining it.
You can take what I wrote into words in that PR description from the one that I raised.
Okay.
Like just kind of, it's a list of bullet points, but you could turn it into because it's like, I'd say the two key takeaways are that the images support ARM, that we've updated a lot of packages, but also that the build process can be extended more easily by users as well. So if they wanted to add their own complex dependent images, they could.
Right, so there was we were not sure to if we wanted to add the ARM64 support because of course this PR was just hanging there, so that was the main reason for not including it. But if now that we're kind of including that part, then we should mention it.
But yeah, so I'd recommend we cover all of the points that I kind of, well, maybe not the caching and builds, but the support for ARM, TensorFlow 2, PyTorch 2, JupyterLab 4.0, Python 3.11, updates to CUDA. The one thing again is that the ARM is not for CUDA images because I don't have a way to test them, so we didn't include those. That's fine.
Okay, I'll contact you. So what we're doing is contacting all the working group leads. I'll create a thread with you and David for this part.
Also, the PPC viewer, is that included or not included?
Yes, it is. It is somewhere there.
Yeah, the text on that section probably ought to be double checked. And if there's a link or a video that we can show how that works or something like that, that would be great too.
Mm.
Because, that particular feature is very powerful, but somewhat harder to get across what it is and the value of it. It's a lot easier when you see it. Okay, let's keep going. Fantastic progress. Thank you for everybody on the release. Daniela, anything else? Are we good to go?
We're good. Thank you, everyone.
Tremendous work there. Security team update. Anybody from the security team want to provide an update?
So I can. We just need to get the security at kubeflow.org email address set up, and then we can publish the guidelines for reporting vulnerabilities and things. I still am not 100% clear how I do that, so I'm going to reach out to James and everyone I know there's a PR involved, but I'm not sure what I'm supposed to put in the PR, so we'll get that worked out. The other thing is between now and the end of January, we're going to be sending out a survey based on the discussion around distro lists and some of the feedback that we've been given. So before we make any decisions on, that piece of it and how that looks going forward, we're going to be surveying all of our downstreams, whether you're building or whether you're buying through a distro. We're going to be reaching out to you. We're also going to be reaching out to the working group leads with the same survey to figure out what that really means to each of our working groups as well. So hopefully by the end of January, we'll have all the information. In February, we can publish the results from that. In the meantime, we'll work on getting the process publicized. And again, the holdup is trying to figure out how to get this Kubeflow, this security at kubeflow.org email stood up, and then getting everyone who needs to be, when people send something into that email address, getting everyone who needs to be notified as part of it. So that's where we're at right now. We've also moved the meetings to every week, so weekly, 30 minutes before the community meeting. So, and then now that we've got that ironed out, I'll update the calendar. And so just know if you're on this call and you want to attend the security call, it'll be 30 minutes before this one each week. So that's where we're at there.
Yeah, David and I kind of looked at some things about this deliveries and tried to write those into the blog post. For those of you that are watching this, and Amber, I know probably Julius can do a decent job on probably explaining this shortly, but this delivery with pod security standards and the restricting access to root for particular
Yeah.
container, actually particular pods, because we're using pod security standards.
Yep.
Especially on the Istio, I believe it's the sidecar,
Yeah.
which limits the ability to network out. I think we need to be able to communicate this, and that's what we're trying to do in the blog post.
Okay.
It's a first phase in a long trip of what we're doing, but this is significant, and I'm hoping that we can communicate that value.
Yeah. Can you send it to Julius and let him, if you haven't already?
Yeah, I believe that David is already working with him to get this into the blog post, but there's probably folks a lot smarter on the pod security standard than me on the phone, but hopefully we can all learn and progress the community's knowledge here.
Thank you.
KubeCon. It's 2 weeks away. Is there any Kubeflow event, get together, anything at KubeCon?
I'm going to be there, but I don't know who else is going to be there. And I don't think there's anything formally planned.
Okay.
But if we get a list of who all's going to be there, I'm sure we can come up with some ad hoc thing, whether it's just meeting at lunch one day or, doing something.
Okay, and then just to follow up, because of the Kubeflow Summit and everything else that was going on, we didn't spend a lot of time on this KubeCon, but I understand KubeCon Europe.
Yep.
Europer. And when is this? April?
I believe so. I don't have the exact date in front of me, but we do have a half-day event that's going to be a co-located. The title of it's going to be Kubeflow Summit Europe or EU 2023. And we've got the CFP topics approved, got the date approved, and I'll go back and add it to the notes, Josh. And then we've got the logo approved through the CNCF. So next will be, I don't know if we have to use the CNCF's tool for CFPs or if we could do it ourselves. We got to find out that, but we're progressing right along with that.
Okay, good. The new CLA.
Hey, Josh, can you hear me?
Yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
before you move on, for those who are interested, I'm going to give a talk on KubeCon about Kubeflow and interactive data science. I can share my talk here. And I will be in Chicago for those who are actually interested and be in person. Feel free to reach me out to me and we can discuss things.
Okay, so you have a talk there?
Yeah, I have talk my accepted at main stage in November 7th. And I can share.
Yeah, if you can share the link to it, let's promote it.
Sure.
Okay, good, good. Let's get that out and get people to that event or to that meeting and or update. Thank you, Andre. And what's
Thank you,
the
Josh.
talk going to be on? Is it hyperparameter?
No, it's actually about interactive data science. So we have like kind of like, deep integration between Jupyter Notebooks and Kubeflow, specifically training and Katib. So we're going to share some insights how we use it together to provide more kind of like data science friendly experience for them. And we're also going to share some new cool features from Jupyter community, such as real-time collaboration, where basically two independent users can interact with the same notebook together.
Oh, wow.
Like in a Google Doc, but in
Oh yeah,
Kubeflow.
that's actually supported by the new images as well. The new images just didn't include that because it was just a little bit too buggy to include by default, but it's supported because of the 4.0 update.
Yeah, RTC was delivered by Jupyter community quite, I would say, recently. It's still in progress, but there are a lot of really cool features that I think we should, be careful about, because this is like deliver completely new kind of functionality in Jupyter world, what people can do right now there. So we will share more details there.
Fantastic. Okay. Anything else on KubeCon? Any other talks?
No, not on KubeCon, but I think Anna and I are both going to be at ODSC West next week, and we're both going to be giving a talk there. So if you're going to be at ODSC West, October 30th or November 2nd out in Burlingame, California, you're probably going to run into both Anna and I there.
Sorry, I'm actually not gonna be there in person, Amber, sorry. Yeah, I'm only speaking virtually. As for KubeCon, I also have a talk. I'm most likely gonna be there in person for KubeCon, Chicago, but I'm not 100% sure yet.
Right? Okay, this is fantastic, right? Okay, anything else on KubeCon, ODSC? Okay, I believe we need a new CLA.
I second that.
Okay, so we have a proposal and a second on getting a new CLA. Can we discuss this for 3 or 4 minutes? Do
Go for
people feel like we need a new CLA? Why do we need a new CLA? Amber, do you want to?
Yeah, so in the past, Josh and I have both been contacted by several different organizations who can't, for whatever reason, or individuals that can't, for whatever reason, sign a Google CLA. And now that we're part of the CNCF, we should adopt a CNCF or more neutral CLA that is not bound by one entity, Google in this case. So if we can get, the CNCF has options for that. They also have options for us to present a new CLA, and they'll review it. But I think one of the ones that they already have would be good enough for us. And that way it would allow for more distributions to come on board and start contributing to the project, and it would allow for more individuals to start contributing to the project.
Well, there's 2 practical things we need to do. Obviously, we have to change the CLA because Google no longer owns the project, and the CLA explicitly says Google owns the project and stuff. But like, we need to practically figure out if everyone needs to resign, which they probably will, and then where we're going to track that and how we're going to get the bot to prevent things to be merged without having signed, right? So Does the
Yeah, there's a
CNCF?
lot of, there's
Um,
there's a lot that goes into it, but I think the first piece is which one is it going to be, and then we can make the list of all the dependencies, you know.
Does the CNCF have a bot for that, or do they just have people host? Because I know Kubernetes doesn't, and a few others use their own bots. So
We'll have to look into it. So if you could, I guess if we can just make a list of all the dependencies and then we can figure it out.
because the reason I ask is that someone will need to, from like a GDPR and everything else perspective, store the database of signed people and the ability to manage it.
Yeah, we'll talk to the CNCF about it. Because I'm sure they face the same questions, you know, that all the projects face the same thing. So I'm sure.
My only they might just force everyone to do their own thing. That's my only concern.
We won't know till we ask, so we'll have to ask.
So here's the challenge, right? We're limiting participation in the community without the new CLA. We also need to move forward with lots of other things, including the elections.
Yep.
Do we do the new CLA before the elections, after the elections? Do we, is that too much disruption if we're trying to get voting done before?
I think, Josh, you can start the conversation. Like we can say, here are the options for the CLA. Then Matthew, all those questions and dependencies that you have are great. Like we need to write those down, and we can we've got to do some homework before we can even kind of get to that point. So I don't think there's any harm in going ahead and opening the issue. We start looking at the issue and exploring it, right? And we don't have to make the decision or anything else if we want to wait till after the elections, or we want to do it, like we can at least start the process. We can open the issue and start the process.
It would be great. I mean, there are people that step up and do a lot of things for the community. There are folks that are in distributions today that have said that they cannot sign the current CLA. It would be really great if we could have a co-leader of this effort from one of those distributions that are having trouble with the current CLA. So the question is there someone in one of the distributions that can't sign the current CLA that could help lead this effort of reviewing the CLAs?
They could probably do it without being involved in the GitHub piece of it, because the GitHub piece requires you sign the CLA to participate.
Right. I mean, researching the CLAs from the CNCF, that probably doesn't require you to be a member of Kubeflow.
No, that doesn't.
But I know the Oracle people can. I think there were other people that couldn't. Anyway, I guess we need an issue opened on this at a minimum, and we need some volunteers.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is 100% something that only the steering committee can change, because it's a governance thing. So they will need to vote on any new CLA. And the main question is, we can probably just use the actual CNCF CLA. That's probably what we should use. The question is like literally just use the exact one that the CNCF uses.
But I think the community needs, even though if it's governance and the steering committee is the one that votes on it, we need, as a community, need to be informed, and we need to make informed decisions so that they know what the community thinks, not just make the decision in a vacuum.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge is that nobody on the steering committee has this problem.
Exactly.
Well, it also is a blocker for us being a graduated project, though.
True. We do have to adopt one. We have to adopt either the one that you just linked to or another one before we can get to graduation. So it becomes a graduation blocker if we don't do it.
Let me ask you this, because when do we need a new CLA by? The end of the year? Doesn't matter. Next year?
I would say, Josh, I would say probably, by the end of February, we should be able to make that decision. I
Okay.
really don't want it to take a year to 18 months for us to get through graduation.
Okay, let's keep going. Elections. Any update on elections schedule, anything like that?
David and I haven't chatted since I reached out to one of the folks at the CNCF. He reached out to Josh, and I reached out to Dawn, and now we've got to sync on. David, we've got to sync on a call with the four of us. So I'm trying to set that up, and then we can keep going, unless you know something that I don't, David.
Not really. Most of it is to we are blocked on creating the repo and following instructions provided by Red Hat, but should be fine.
So David and I and hopefully Dawn and Josh Burkus will have a call, and then we'll be able to publish some information out to the community.
Okay, so can we start to get a date on some of the schedules? So next week or the week after, could we start to firm up?
Let's shoot for not next week, but week after to have a schedule published.
Okay, great.
So in 2 weeks.
Fantastic.
David,
And
I think we can get that done in 2 weeks, don't you? Yeah.
David has a lot on his plate right now, so I appreciate all the efforts that he's putting in at this point, both working on the blog, the presentation. These are very complicated efforts, and now doing these elections. So David, I want to make sure that that people recognize that the effort that you're putting in. It would be, if you guys need help or whatever, it would be nice to let us know, and let's see if we can get some other volunteers. I guess they can't really help on the election because you guys are the only officers, right?
Right now, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I want to touch on this distribution list with GitHub stars. Matthew, you had an issue that you had created. I don't have a link to it here, but we did discuss this in the steering committee. The steering committee is supportive of this idea, yet they said we believe that we should give 4 weeks for the distributions to weigh in on the issue. If there is no consensus, then the steering committee will weigh in and make a decision. But right now, what we'd like to do, and I don't know if you have a link to that one, Matthew, but say that we give at least 4 weeks for the distributions to comment on the issue that you have, which is on the distribution list on installing Kubeflow. Can we show the GitHub stars for each of the distributions? So the requirement here is for any of the distribution owners, can you go to that issue and please put in either you approve this or your concerns of why it should not be or not. You can just say, I don't approve, whatever, doesn't look good to me. I don't know what the opposite of LGTM is, -1 or whatever. But we'd like to get this done. And Matthew, this has been open at least 2 weeks, right?
You can check today, but yeah, so I mean, yes, in my mind, if people also don't have to make a comment if they're not comfortable making a comment, and we'll just assume no comment is consensus, I guess. And then again, it's the steering committee that decides, right? That's my thought process, really, in the end.
Well, our thought in the steering committee was if there was a majority of the distributions that say yes, a comment, then steering committee doesn't need to weigh in.
I mean, that's indirectly weighing in, but sure. Like in the end, because the power to make the decision comes from you guys. So you know what I mean? Like that's a lot of things. because I'm happy with the steering committee making the decision. I think there's a potential that maybe we should wait until after the election, but if we want to do it before then that's great too. Like if
Okay, we're just trying to be responsive to, so, you made the response, we want to get it done. We know these things, trying to keep the momentum going. So our thought was we'll leave this open for 2 more weeks.
yeah, if you've got any really, really strong objections, raise them either privately with the steering committee if you're uncomfortable posting them on the issue.
Yeah, if you don't feel like putting it on the get issue, fine. But the view would be that we'd rather see it on the get issue. That's at least the way that James and I discussed. Let's keep moving. Spark. This kind of died, but I don't think that it should. I think that Spark's a large community. I think there was a lot of interest. We had a lot of people that said they wanted to. Do we pick this back up after the release? Is this a December thing?
What are you referring to here, Josh?
Well, there was a integration with Spark that was going to be somehow done, and we had teams that were willing to support that. And there was a group of users that were interested in it. And so, I know that there's a lot of different distributions and implementations around this, but what do we do with this particular request to support some type of Spark integration with Kubeflow?
Josh,
So-
have you talked to the folks that did the presentation since they gave their presentation at the
Yeah,
community-
we left it that we were going to have people comment on the Slack issue, on the GitHub issue, which a lot of people did very quickly. They gave comments, thumbs up and such. And then we didn't pick it back up because we got Kubeflow Summit.
Kubeflow Summit. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we had some people lined up to kind of take this on. It's been an issue that's floated around a long time.
I think we need to reach back out to the folks that presented, make sure they're aware of the comments and stuff on the issue, and then
Where's the issue? Do you have a link so we can put it in here?
I don't have the link in front of me. I have to find it.
I'm sure it's further below in this doc.
I'm just searching.
Look like a month ago, like 4 weeks ago.
There was a discussion around adopting the Spark operator, but that would obviously be a decision for the steering committee because that's a new component of the project because Google was wanting to donate it or something. But
Yeah, if this was the Spark
Sorry,
operator.
do we have Marcin on the call? I don't think so, right?
No, I think we have to go and get Marcin and the guy from, what was it, Stackable? I forget the name of the company that was there.
Yeah, stackable, right? You're right, Josh.
And bring them back on. We told them we'd give them some notice, bring them back in and say, hey, we're ready to go. But are we ready?
Yeah, because our basically because Marcin first of all reached out to Training Core Europe, and our major concern was like we need to find people who actually can maintain this project moving forward. And even if you want to adopt it with Kubeflow, right, and donate it to Kubeflow, we still need to find people who are going to maintain it, right?
Yeah.
I see there is interest, right? But what about like maintenance part of these things, right?
Yeah, the Stackable people said that they had something that wasn't as good as the Google, if I remember right, and that they were willing to support some form
Yeah.
of an operator that maybe took some of the Google stuff and put it into their stuff, into the Stackable.
Yeah, I would suggest maybe we can comment on the issue that's on the 31st of October. Marcin Stackable guys can join the call. We can make a decision, right?
So the reason why I bring this back up, folks, is that, part of our strategy is to partner with adjacent groups. This is a big group. It is a gap in the Kubeflow workflow, and perhaps we should consider, if this should be pursued or not. Okay, so we'll bring this back up onto the agenda. Maybe we go and get Marcin and the Stackable folks back on the phone again and say, hey, you know, do you guys want to move forward with this? And we'll need to talk about what the commitments are.
So, by the way, there is actually some stuff coming in the Kubeflow Notebooks 2.0 that will make Spark a lot easier, but it's separate to the operator thing. Obviously, the operator can independently have its own. If there's some people willing to maintain it, then that's great. But there's also plans that we have after the initial release of Kubeflow Notebooks 2.0, which will allow for notebooks or workspaces that contain much more than just one pod. So you could theoretically spawn a Spark cluster, for example, as a workspace.
And who will be responsible for orchestrating these clusters?
So the workspace controller would be, but that's separate to the operator. That's the cluster. It's like the Spark operator is more about creating an abstraction for a single job of a Spark rather than running a cluster. Because, like, for example, if you, I can envision a situation where you spawn a workspace that has a Jupyter lab connected to a Spark cluster, or even a Zeppelin, you know, Apache Zeppelin, it's another UI, that has direct connection to a Spark cluster, which is also running in the same namespace, which is separate than, there's like 100 ways to run Spark, right? But this is just an option that I will put as an example. And that's another way we can kind of tick the box of helping people use Spark.
I think usually people use Spark with the remote kernels of Jupyter. Basically, they spawn Spark clusters as kernels of Jupyter. But you still need to have an orchestrator, right? Who actually will be responsible for creation of these clusters, right?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So like the power of the new workspace controller is that it can allow for arbitrary Helm chart based stuff, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
Like,
I understand. Yeah, I think, like, I mean, it's definitely a different discussion. I think, I mean, I definitely agree. I mean, Kubeflow doesn't have any story around data preparation today. I mean, Jupyter for me, or workspaces for me, is more kind of like the tool who the designers to interact with their ML workloads, right? But itself, tool just today doesn't exist in our project overall. I mean, I'm not sure that actually workspaces can solve the problem of data preparation, to be honest. As long as you don't have this kind of orchestration, like inbuilt orchestration in your, you know, controller, who can like actually can spawn the clusters and can have a proper like connection to these clusters from different workspaces, whether it's VS Code, Jupyter, right? But I think, like, I believe we need to have more time to discuss this, Josh, to be honest. Like maybe like Matt, you can also share your like thoughts next with that Tuesday. Like, how do you think people can use Spark with Kubeflow? And maybe we can discuss it next week. What do you think?
Well, like they can already do it. To be clear, like if you, most people are running Spark clusters on EMR, for example. So you can already do that, and people do every day. You know, connect your Jupyter to that. We could add Apache Zeppelin. I always thought about this, and the reason we didn't is just because it's too painful to add a new category of images. But until the new Notebooks 2.0 changes. Zeppelin is a much more Spark focused IDE, you know, web-based IDE. But the other thing is that we should also seriously look at, you know, some more tight integration with KubeRay or something, you know, so that we can have like a Ray cluster. But again, that feels like something that could be in the workspaces as well. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, in the Jupyter world, right? There are many people who actually use Spark with Jupyter, right? And as I mentioned, like, they use this concept of the kernel, right? Where you can spawn the Spark cluster as a Jupyter kernel and have a connection from your notebook to the Spark kernel with the interactive Spark sessions, right? I believe Databricks, for example, they have this ability to run on their kind of platform the Spark kernels from the Jupyter notebooks, for example, right?
You can already do that. You
so
can just install that plugin. It's just a Spark Magic or whatever it's called, right?
I don't think it's just a plugin. I mean, I think it's more about orchestration and other things as well, right?
Well, Well, as I said,
So-
almost no one is running Spark clusters on Kubernetes. Some people are running Spark on Kubernetes, which is different. I know that sounds weird, but because Spark is capable of orchestrating itself per job on Kubernetes. Anyway, this is a very technical topic related
Yeah.
to Spark. I think the most important thing is the discussion around the operator adoption, and then we can separately discuss other options as well.
I will comment on the issue to ask them to join the call next Tuesday.
All right, we're a little bit over time, but Jeremy had put this on here about the status of the CNCF graduation.
We're a long way off.
Yeah, understood. Where are we tracking activities related to that graduation? And that might give us a sense
Josh,
of
do
where
you
we
have
might
the
be able to help
issue?
you.
Do you
You
have
know,
the,
I think whoever asked the question can answer that question, right? No, I'm just joking, Jeremy, but we could use some help on this actually. If and I know you said you wanted to kind of help in moving the community forward, but I think right now we're there's a long list of things to do, and I doubt that anybody has looked at that list in a little while. Let me just say I looked at that list and said, oh gosh, we got a long list of things to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't look at it again. Anybody looked at it recently?
I think I looked at it like 2 weeks ago, and the piece I'm concerned with is like the security piece and stuff. But hey, Josh, can we add this to one of the first items for next week and just go through it with everybody? Since, you know, we all definitely need to look at it again.
Yeah, I'd like to get a volunteer, somebody to kind of lead this, you know.
The steering committee absolutely will be the ones responsible for getting us to graduation, but obviously they'll be delegating the task to people.
Josh, you can put me down to go over it with the group next week.
Yeah, I'd like to see someone else step up.
Well, me too, but
You know, I mean, I really think that there's, you know, a few people that are carrying a lot of the load here, and there needs to be more. Okay, hey, Sean.
Yeah, we Red Hat would love to get involved in all of this. So yeah, if you want to put like me and Jeremy on this as well, we'd love to know where it's at and see where we can fit things in to help.
I think that would be great if you could.
that would be awesome.
We have some historical experience in this as well.
I know.
I bet you do. Okay, let's think about how we can help you. I think there's a list of stuff that came back that we can expose you guys to. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying you guys have to lead. If you guys can just help pitch in, you know, from time to time, right? That would be great. If you want to lead,
Yeah.
fantastic. If you just want to
Well,
help pitch
let's
in,
take a look at it. Josh, let's take a look at it as soon as
I'll
possible.
find the list. I'll find the
Awesome.
list
And
send
then-
it over to y'all.
Okay, cool. And then, you know, we'll see what we can and can't do. I think it would be good to at least talk about like a target date. If nothing else, to kind of give us a sense of well, urgency or whatever. I don't personally have any particular dates in mind, but just without a date, it'll just
Well,
linger.
it's just, I think the purpose of graduation is to signal that a project is relatively stable, and like, I think we should, rather than targeting a specific date, we should figure out what that means for Kubeflow. And that could
Yeah,
mean,
great. So
yeah, quite a different structure of the project, even like you know, because like currently the way that we kind of release is kind of weird and things like that. So maybe those things almost certainly would need to change. So
good. All right, so let's get a complete picture of things and see where we can and can't help everybody. Okay. We'll try and do that on the Kubeflow Slack, and Amber, if you can post it
Yeah.
somewhere in there, I guess.
Yep.
And then awesome. We'll take a look. Thanks. That's it.
Thank you.
all right, our next meeting is Halloween, right? October 31st.
It might be.
Are we all dressing up for the call?
Get all dressed up.
I was just gonna say, so you're telling me my virtual avatar needs to have a Halloween outfit?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, well, I thought we got a lot done today. Hopefully, any final questions, comments, concerns? We talked about the Firefly thing, right?
Not on record.
Yeah, I don't know if it, I don't know what the current, I don't actually know if it blocks them from joining the next meeting or not, but I will see if it does. If
Yeah,
not, then I'll,
Is it
figure out a
Chevet
way.
that has that? If it's Chevet, then we can just reach out to him via Slack and say, hey, we're gonna have to turn that off for now.
Well, either way, I'll make sure that it can't join the meetings, but I don't know how to actually prevent that on a per global meeting basis, but I have to look.
Okay. All right, any other comments, questions, concerns?
Yeah, obviously my main thing, Amber, is I'd love to get, I put some tasks there, by the way, just like, obviously you said the dates, but let's also get a list of eligible electors published as well.
That list will change based on the timeline, so just know, you know.
Yes.
So yeah, but yeah, we'll get all that. David and I'll work on that. And anything else you can think to add there?
Obviously you have to play around with the election system, but you know.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do on that.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing and turn off the recording. And I think we're done.
Hell
Thank you.
yeah.